This is all things Cheryl here with a review and a recap of season 12, House Rules. Sorry with the late arrival on the review recap on Greenleaf, episode 12 in season 2. Basies Skank is having his Sunday service, and his Sunday service is on the subject of accepting homosexuality within the church. Basies Skank goes into his sermon, and he says that a lot of you all probably was up all night hanging out and everything, and had that last drink and realized that you basically had to get to church. And then some of you all will basically, after church, some of you all will basically go to your favorite seafood restaurant and have yourself some shellfish and some shrimp and some seafood. Well, let's go down memory lane and let's have a biblical history section. And I'm not going to call the name of the verses and everything, but he says here in certain, I don't know which verse, it says that, you should not eat the shellfish, which I basically read that in the Bible. And it's also said that women should not have their ears pierced, they should not have tattoos, and so on and so forth. We could go into it a little bit more, but basically, Basies Skank was telling his congregation is that we should understand that if we are to be a church of God, that we need to accept all. And so he goes on and says that, and that also includes the gays too. And did he realize when he mentioned the word gay or homosexuality, his congregation was basically very quiet. And basically that is the case with the black churches when it comes to homosexuality. And we need to come to some understanding that God is love and love is for everyone. I don't want to get into the semantics, so let's just keep on going. After Basies Skank basically had his discussion on homosexuality, we realized that in the back of the church we have Darius. And Darius is basically taking down notes and everything. Then we come across town. We see Charity, we see Grace, and we see Lady Day, and we see the bishop. Where they're all sitting around the morning table as they normally do, reading this intense article that Darius basically did on Basies Skank. And apparently the article also elaborated a little bit more into why black churches don't accept homosexuals in their church. And apparently it seems that Darius, he went on and he interviewed Carlton, who used to be a member of Calverton. And in his article, he mentioned Calverton. And when he mentioned Calverton, Grace was sitting at the table, and the bishop was sitting at the table, and he looked at the article and everything, and he told Lady Day and Charity on there, it's about time for me to take a visit to see Basies Skank. So we find out we go over and we see that the bishop has basically went into the church and into Basies Skank's office. At that time, it's apparent that Basies Skank had a visitor, and one of his visitors was not, well, you could tell he wasn't really a church goer, kind of big, kind of thick, kind of goody looking. And so he was explaining to this person who came, and basically he came to collect his 50 G's. And apparently Basies Skank basically didn't have the money. And so when he was explaining to this goon who was here to collect the debt that Basies Skank owed, the bishop walked in. And so Basies Skank said, oh, you're just in time. You're just in the nick of time. And by the way, he was telling the goon person, he says, by the way, I'll make sure you get those business cards. And the guy who was there to basically see what was going on with his 50K was saying yes, and etc. and etc. etc. And so the guy, the thug person left out, and so Basies Skank and the bishop was in the office together. And so Basies Skank and said, well, why do we have you here? What is, in his, his slick way. So what do they honor that we have you here? And the bishop says, look, I basically came here to tell you to keep my name out of your mouth. Keep Cowerton out of your mouth. And also, he said, you may have a spell under my daughter, under Gigi, and it's apparently here you had already snatched my son from me. But this time I'm going down with a fight. I will not let you have Gigi. And so basically he said, in your days as numbering. And then he basically walked on out of the church. He basically walked out of Basies Skank's church. At this time, we see that Grace and the bishop was having a little talk. So apparently what has happened is that Grace has taken over outreach, the outreach ministry in which Kevin has abandoned. And she came across, a box of literature, a box of information and everything that Kevin had left behind. And she was basically going through all of the material and everything, and then she came across a particular pamphlet that Kevin was basically looking at. It apparently seems that Kevin was trying to pray the gayness away from him. He was going through this program that basically tried to, I guess it was shock therapy. So Grace is very upset, so she goes into her father's office and said, look, why is it that when it comes to being the first, and when it comes to talking about, homosexuality, we always have to be, within any subject, we always have to be the last on board. And she says, well, why do we always have to do that? Can you make a statement? Can you, talk about this and everything? And so the bishop was kind of, reluctant about, talking about homosexuality in the church. And he says, I understand. She said, did you know that Kevin was going to this group to, basically see if he can get rid of his urges and everything when it comes to his homosexuality identity? And he basically said, yeah, he knew that, he understood that, and he also knew that it was wrong. But he told Grace, he says, well, we have to have patience, we have to have time, let me pray on it and everything. And so Grace was kind of like glad that her father said, okay, we're going to take a look at it, let me pray on it. And so in the meantime, we go over, after we talked about, we see that Isaiah and Zora. And apparently Isaiah and Zora had earlier had already had sex perhaps once again. And so Zora was studying about science, and she was trying to really study. And so Isaiah kind of sort of wanted to stop the study and asked and said, well, can we take a moment with study? Can we stop from a moment of studying and everything? And Zara told her, well, we already had one moment, but okay. So when they were getting ready to, I guess, stop the moment of study, you heard a sound, and Zara jumped up, and she noticed that her father opened up the door, and her father had a bag of donuts I guess donut rolls or everything. He said, well, guess what I found? He said, I found like 12 donut rolls for $2.99. And he was talking to Zora, but Zora seemed like she really wasn't really interested. She kind of wanted to for him to hurry up and say what, what her father wanted. So Jacob opened up Zora's bedroom door a little bit more. And he noticed that Isaiah was sitting there, upright, sitting on the edge of Zora's bed. So Jacob looked at Zora and looked at Isaiah. And so Jacob said, hey, Isaiah, let me have a little word with you too. So Jacob got his coat, whatever else, his book bag. And he escorted Jacob out of Zora's bedroom. And Zora was standing, at the bedroom in the meantime. And so Jacob said, you know what the rules and regulations is. You're not supposed to be in my house with the bedroom door closed. We have rules and regulations around here. So he said a little bit more, but he easily eased Isaiah at the door and escorted him out of the door. And at that time, Zora looked like she was basically upset that her father had basically did that to Isaiah. And so he told Zora, look, I don't want to hear from you. You just go into your bedroom. Hey, Zora I like Zora for her to be, real strong young lady. She got this weakness for Isaiah. So we go on and we see that we find out that Lady May is getting ready to go over to Jacinta. I think that's the way, Jacinta, and to ask her if she would be willing to speak in the Women's Day that basically then they are about to have. In the meantime, we find out that before then, the secretary had came into the bishop's office and told the bishop that Rochelle was basically on the phone, and did he want to take it? So the bishop said, no, tell her I'll call back later. But Lady May was there and said, no, go ahead and take your, basically your phone call. So he basically took the phone call and he told Rochelle, he says, Rochelle, I'm basically glad to hear from you. And so he was telling Rochelle, don't call me, don't call me Bishop, call me James. And so we went on and we find out that Rochelle was basically telling the bishop that she had basically decided that she wanted to make Carrollton her home. And the reason why that she really wanted to make Carrollton her home was the sermon that Basies Skank basically had. And it talked about homosexuality, and she's not really for gays in the church. And so we go on and we have a conversation. And so we go on and we see that Charity is trying to, Charity and Jabari is together. And Charity is basically having her song and singing and everything. And so it's apparently that Charity likes Jabari. So Jabari has a recording in his hand, and he tells Charity, he says I have something for you, and he shows Charity this recording. And then that's when Charity basically got all into her feelings, and she was telling Jabari, says, you don't want me to come over into Nashville to basically do my recordings and everything? And he was telling her, no, that's not the point. It's just that, when you you get this thing, and you get this idea. I want you to be able to, have it like right away, and not have to wait, wait on me, or you come to Nashville. And so Charity wasn't really into it, but she was like, okay. And so apparently Jabari had asked Charity if she would be willing to come to dinner with her. And so Charity accepted. So we see that Charity goes into Grace's office and asks Grace would she be willing to watch Nathan while she goes on a date with Jabari. And so she said, yes, I'll do it for you. I don't mind watching my nephew. At that time, we see that Darius had came to visit Grace, Gigi, because apparently that they had set some plans to have a romantic dinner, but Grace basically had to bail out of it just for part-time and to watch her nephew. And so she asks Darius, she says, do you mind, it's not going to be that long that we watch, Nathan for Charity. And she really hasn't really came to me for anything. So basically, I kind of want to let her see that I am interested in, my nephew, and I want to take some time. But you could basically see by the expression on Darius' face, he really wasn't really having it. He really didn't want to do it or anything like that. So in the meantime, we over in the other part of town where Lady Day has basically went to Mrs. Brown. I'm calling her Mrs. Brown, and told her if she would be interested. And thanks for allowing her granddaughters Zora and Sophia to be a part of the cotillion this year. And so Lady Day had this candid way of squeezing information out of people. So she went on and she says, she talked to Miss Brown, and she says, how do you basically know Rochelle? And Jacinta says, that's her name. Jacinta says, well, she's very good with my books. She's very good at handling money. And she says, oh, really? She said, well, why did you ask? She says, the reason why I'm asking is that Rochelle has decided to make Calverton her home. And so Jacinta was like really surprised. She says, oh, really? She says, really? She says, well, do you know what's going on with Rochelle? She says, well, don't let Rochelle know what I'm about to tell you, but it's not necessarily always the woman's fault as the reason why certain things go wrong, at the church and everything. They always want to blame the woman, but really, so we're trying to figure, and so Miss Brown said, oh, well, did Rochelle tell you about exactly what went on at her other church? And Lady May push it off as if, oh yeah, she did. She told me about it and everything. But we know that Lady May lied about that. She was just trying to figure out some information, figure out why Rochelle is so interested in, becoming a part of Calverton. And so Jacinta said, please don't let her know that I found out this information. So in the meantime, the bishop is talking to Lady May and says that, look, we need to find out a little bit more as to why Jacob has basically left Triumph. And the only way we could find out is that we need to go over and have dinner with them. We need to break bread. And so Lady May says, yep, I'm basically for that. So let's go on over and, have that dinner. And so in the meantime, we see that Grace and Darius is, having dinner basically at the big house, basically at the mansion, at the Greenleaf Mansion. And so Darius looked around, and while Grace Grace was taking care of Nathan, Darius easily said a little slick. He says, this is how the other part the other part of Greenleaf lives. You right next door to your mom and your father, and a whole bunch of everything. And so we get into a conversation. Grace asks Darius, it says, I see that you did an article, you did an exclusive Basies Skank and Triumph. And I see that, you mentioned Calverton. And so Darius says, yes, I did mention Calverton. And she said, but I also see that you did not ask my father, the bishop, what his views and everything was, especially dealing with homosexuality and stuff. And I also see that you interviewed Carlton. And so Darius looked at her and said, well, I thought we made this agreement. I thought we made this agreement in a way that, I wouldn't, do anything or say anything or mention anything without you knowing or anything. And so JJ said, yeah, you did, but, you could have at least told me. And he was like, well, in so many words, I don't really have to tell you anything. And so that's when they was beginning to get into a little tit for tat. Because then that's when Grace said, every time it looks like we're getting ready to get a little bit closer, you have a tendency of, backing away. And then Darius will come with his little, well, it seems like every time I get closer, or every time we want to do something close, it always seems that you come up with an excuse. And so that's when they were doing a tit for tat, that you did this, I did this, you did this. And so at a point, Darius just got up and he just like, look, I had enough. Let me just walk away from this. And he walked on out the door. And so in the meantime, we see that we're over in the other part of town where is that Carissa had already had this heated conversation with Jacob. Because earlier in the morning, Jacob and Carissa was having some issues because the lights had went out again. And so earlier within the day, Carissa had told Jacob, look, you need to go and get your little self a job. I cannot, handle all of this on one salary. I can't do it. You need to get a job. And so that's when Jacob and they got into this heated a conversation. And Jacob told Carissa, you need to wait, you need to have patience, and you need to have faith. And so Carissa just like sit there like a little dummy, not a little dummy, but then Jacob really got into her again and said, look, when I was cheating and everything, I gave you the leeway to become, to do what you needed to do because basically I could, and I ain't had any control or anything. But now that I had control and you prayed for me to have control and you don't want to heed to some of the things that I wish for you to do. That was like earlier in the day. In the meantime, we over here, the bishop and Lady May is really sitting at dinner. And this is when the bishop was telling Carissa, and Jacob said, in order for, when I was small starting out, I had like 2 or 3 jobs, selling insurance. I was cleaning offices and stuff like that. And so Jacob said, I don't remember that. And the bishop said, and Lady May said, well, how can you remember that when you were small, when all of this was happening? You're basically reaping the benefits of it now, or were. And so we see that the dinner goes on and everything. So the dinner comes to a halt and they're getting ready to leave. And so Carissa wanted to say, went to the bishop and said, oh, Bishop, could you take a look at our electrical box? And that's when Jacob basically went off with his chain. He told Carissa, whoa, roll. Slow your horses, roll, slow down. No. And so the bishop was saying like, oh, okay. But before then, the bishop had asked Jacob. He said, Jacob, why all of a sudden did you have the lease and you have this house? But prior last year or so, you and Basies Skank was like, 2 peas in a pot. And then all of a sudden, you come up with, a lease and a house. It's a plan. I mean, what's the 411? What's the T? What's the deal? I mean, how's all this going down all of a sudden? And then Jacob threw a little verse onto the bishop and said, look, and I can't really tell you exactly how all this is happening, but in the Bible it says my word is my bond, and I basically told them that I would not say anything about, the deal that, Skank and I made, and therefore it's going to stay like that. In the meantime, you can see Carissa in the background sitting there like, man, I'm really getting kind of tired of this bull. I'm getting kind of tired of it. And so that's when Carissa and Jacob stopped Carissa in her tracks. And so they went on about their business, the lady Mayans, and went on about their business. But earlier, I'm skipping back and forth. Earlier within that time, Rochelle did visit the bishop. And this time, Rochelle was sitting in the chair. And the bishop was the one that was kind of like, doing the kiki and the ha-ha. He came around and he was sitting on the edge of his little desk and looking into Rochelle's face. And so that's when Rochelle, face to face, instead of over the phone, told the bishop that, she decided that, she's going to make cowards in her home. So we know what's going on. We know what's going on. She's up to something. In the meantime, we at the dinner with Charity and Jabari. And they finished the dinner and everything. And it was time for Charity and Jabari to go their separate ways. Because Charity had dropped Jabari at the hotel. And so Charity was like already, get that last final, seal the kiss and seal the deal. And Jabari reached over and gave it a peck on the forehead. And you should have seen the expression. I know you guys saw the expression on her face. It was like, what the hell was that about? Kissing me on the forehead? What? And so then you see that Charity and Grace was having a sister moment, sister bar. That's when Charity came in and she said, well, what happened with you and Darius? He said, well, Grace said, well, we got into a little heated discussion and he basically went on about his way and everything. And so Charity said, yeah, I understand how you feel, girl. I was up here starving myself and I get a little kiss on the forehead. I get nothing. And she said, I see you ain't get nothing. We ain't get nothing. And so, it was good that they had that little sister bond. And so in the meantime, we go over into in the meantime we go, and Grace is basically in bed and the phone rings. And so the phone rings, and so Grace sees that it's Darius. And so he asks her, he said, what are you doing? She said, I'm in bed. He said, okay, I'm outside, come outside. And so that's when we see that Grace, Gigi, and Darius is sitting down. And basically, Darius told Gigi, he told her, says, the reason why I be so standoffish and I basically don't go to church and everything, I was married at one time. And so Grace kind of like, what? You were married. And we find out that Darius married. We also find out that his wife died in a car accident. And they were on their way to church. And Darius, I forgot what he said. I need to write it down a little bit more. He had asked the minister why this had to happen to him and his wife. And that's when Darius explained that the preacher gave some lame excuse and he wasn't really satisfied with it. And so when Darius gave Gigi, the reason why he doesn't attend church, of course Gigi fell into, the on again, off again. Now they're on again. But I still don't trust this reporter. I really don't. I think that it's going to be A blowout. What kind of blow up? I don't really know. And so guess what, guys? We see Carissa. We see Carissa. But before then, we see Sophia and Zora in the car getting ready to do their first rehearsal with the cotillion. And Isaiah is pinging, sending text. And so Sophia finally get Isaiah on the phone. And she talks to Isaiah. She says, Isaiah, how you doing and everything? And apparently Isaiah was pissed off with the fact that father kicked his little buns out of the house. And Sophia was like, you know what? I don't know what you're going to do when we get ready to go into, we can't have our phones. And so she said, go ahead and take this phone call. So apparently she did. Isaiah hung up on Zora due to the fact that she did not, answer all of the texts that she was sending him. So we go on and we see that Carissa had decided to basically go over to the house and take a little visit to the bishop and Lady Day. She spilled everything about how Jacob attained that land, how she spilled it all. Where everybody's talking about now, what's the tea? She gave Bishop Lady Day all the information, all of how they lost their savings, how Basies owes, almost $250,000. She gave them everything that the bishop was asking Jacob, and Jacob was trying to keep his word, his bond. And so it is going to pop off next week. Until the meantime, this is All Things Cheryl. I'm asking you to do a couple of things. I'm asking you to click. I'm asking you to subscribe. I'm asking you to hit the notification. And I'm asking you to share. If you think this is like my second review recap on TV shows, and I'm only doing 2, and that's Greenleaf and Queen Sugar. There's so many shows out there that I don't think I can, do it. And I'm learning how to do reviews and recaps. So I'd like for you to be a part of this growth, to see how I grow my channel, to see how I, learn new things and everything. And this is just a little hobby for me, It's like what I like to do. And I'm learning a lot of stuff that you see that may pop up, like the designs, a couple other stuff that I'm learning. I'm basically learning this all on my own. But until the next time, and I see you this week, and I'm trying to be on time. Peace and love.